Bar down and down hard. Are the ADRs out of China listed in the United States? How investable are they?
I think look, Lisa hit it. I think Baba oversold here. I mean, look, there's going to be some fear factor, but when it comes to cloud, when it comes to who's going to be the winner in AI in China, I think names like Alibaba, those are names that you own here. I think Bar's going to be a little worse than the bite here. I think that's actually the best reaction that we're seeing in China in terms of some of these names.
There are two different things, though, Dan. The idea of buying in China if you are in mainland China versus buying the ADRs in the U.S. at a time where there is increasing focus on whether some of these companies should be raising money in the United States. Do you think that there will be an increasing divide between the depository receipts and what we see in mainland China or Hong Kong?
Well, I think there will be, just because the worry here in terms of, what could come out of Trump and the Beltway. And then I think the other focus is, even though we're hearing jitters and obviously going to Nvidia tomorrow, I think more and more investors would rather own big tech. Obviously, there's regulatory risk, but that continues to be, I think, at the top of the mountain when it comes to AI revolution.
Dan, Evercore ISI put out a note saying the sell-off, what's going on in China, is more about sell first and ask questions later. Given this directive from the president is just that, a directive. It's a place of travel where they want to go. How much of this do you read as leverage for some sort of deal potentially Trump might want to do with Beijing?
Look, I was just in Hong Kong, over the last week. I do think that this is all a game of high-stakes poker to ultimately where you get to some sort of deal. Look, I think, given the movements, I get it, but I do think that you're going to get to maybe a lot better outcome here between U.S. and China. That's the thinking. I think, especially in Hong Kong and a lot of investors there, rather than maybe some of the onerous or draconian scenarios that you would have thought, going back to when Trump got elected.
How concerned are you, though, that there are conversations already underway between Trump administration officials when it comes to stricter export controls, similar to what we saw in the Biden administration, but actually even maybe a little bit sharper?
Look, it's all going to be this fine line. And just even think about things like TikTok, right? I mean, that's another chip on the table, just like China has chips as well with Tesla and FSD. Look, this is all going to be in negotiation, but I do believe that there's going to be this balancing act. I don't think this is going to, what I view as like draconianly impact chips, the supply chain, despite maybe some of the fears out there. And I think that's also why he talks to Jensen, talks to Cook, of course Musk, with a front row seat, in terms of this very tricky balancing act between acting tough but not ruining this, what continues to be.
As the company released its quarterly earnings report, all eyes were on Nvidia. Although the company's financial health has always been a source of curiosity, this announcement carried unprecedented weight. Wall Street heavyweights like Dan Ives and tech giants like Microsoft and Meta eagerly awaited the report as rumors circulated about possible slowing profit margins. Speculators were on the edge of their seats, wondering about the wider implications for the beloved AI sector. And Beyond welcomes everyone back to Investing Tutorial. So, what implications does this have for Nvidia's stock? Let's explore that. But first, a big thank you to those of you who've stuck with us this far. Creating these videos takes significant effort and dedication. So if you're enjoying the content, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts on Nvidia stock in the comments. Your support truly helps us grow. Now let's get back to the video.
Christina, thank you. Paul, we were talking about it earlier in the show, the possibility of a triple play for NVIDIA. It looks like we got that here, but to Christina's point, maybe the non-GAAP gross margin guidance hindering it a little bit.
Yeah, that's a little bit low, but as she said, they're forecasting a pickup in the second half, so that would be a good thing. I think more important than the conference call is going to be the interview at 7 o'clock with John, because hopefully John can flesh out more details on more than a quarter ahead as far as guidance is concerned. But I think the reaction here is the stock's up a little bit. What we've seen with NVIDIA since last summer is multiple rallies ending on a positive day and then an intraday reversal, indicating investors selling into strength. So I think the real key that I'll be watching is tomorrow. How does that stock react? Do we see strength, or if we do see strength in the morning, does it immediately get sold off? And if it does, that'll just tell us that the stock continues to be in a distribution mode.
Analysts and investors were not only interested in past performance, they examined every detail. Nvidia's enormous valuation highlights its ability to influence market movements like a seismic event. Any tremor in its profit margins could resemble shifting tectonic plates on Wall Street's landscape. As the curtain came down, Nvidia's earnings exceeded expectations, just as Dan Ives predicted, with $39.3 billion in revenue marking a colossal 78% growth for the quarter. To stay informed about the latest developments from Nvidia and the ever-changing stock market, consider subscribing to our investing tutorial channel. We provide daily updates on significant market shifts and key catalysts, so hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss crucial information. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Nvidia stock, so please share your opinions in the comments below. Now, let's dive into today's video.
Well, if anybody can extract information that's going to matter to the markets, it's Sean Fort.
Well, thank you, Morgan. Paul, I will do my best. Pat, it's wild to me that we're talking about gross margins in the 70s as being a little low. How much, put it into context for what semiconductor margins usually are, how much do we have to expect that during the ramp of a new product there will be some fluctuation?
I mean, listen, anything in the 70s is outstanding. And the fact that we're nitpicking over a few percents, and yes, I know it makes a difference, is very interesting to me. I've shipped a lot of products in my prior life, and I will tell you that when you are working as hard as you can to get products out, you typically will spend more to make that happen. So there's likely some accelerated ordering of things that NVIDIA needs to do to get Blackwell ready. And remember, this is not just shipping some cards out. NVIDIA is shipping rack scale system that includes not only cards and chips from networking and GPUs and CPUs, but also cabling and the racks themselves. So accelerating, I think the street much rather see a beat in the forecast and more confidence around Blackwell as long as the margins don't get too out of hand. And I'm not saying a few points doesn't matter. It does. But if the story that comes out on the call is that, investors should be happy that they are where they are. And industry-leading margins, again, I'll reiterate, are in the 70s.
Mike, I want to get your thoughts on this, especially since coming into this print, NVIDIA was down something like 7% since the last earnings report. It's down 17% from the January high that we saw early in that month. We know the AI trade, the tech trade, perked up a little bit in the market today, but in general, we've seen quite a rotation. We've seen a lot of profit taking. Your takeaway from the results we've gotten so far and how it speaks to this broader ecosystem?
Yeah, I think, Morgan, the market has been keeping the AI theme on a shorter leash. I don't think it's ever going to lengthen back out to where it was a year ago, meaning that everybody involved, the spenders and the vendors, were all benefiting and getting massive valuation premiums because it was just a huge bonanza. These results from NVIDIA, as good as they are in absolute terms, they show this company is beyond the point of being able to dazzle and outpace even people's imagination. $42 billion in the current quarter guidance for revenue, plus or minus 2%, is a rounding error versus the consensus. It's a good, reaffirmation of the trend. And I think that we've kind of gotten this funny game. I saw some sell-side commentary saying, well, they're probably going to beat top line by $1.8 billion, but they're going to get back to their $2 billion quarterly beat rate after this. Well, why not just raise your estimates if you think that's what it's going to be? But I think it's kind of funny that we're at this point where expectations are pretty well in balance. The stock is pretty well in balance. A lot of people burned a lot of option premium betting on a massive move. We might get it over the next 2 days, but it's just fascinating that we've almost reached a state of maturity in this theme where the company is delivering, but no longer just completely.
Since the market's hopes for AI were pinned on Nvidia, even a slight change in chip sales seemed to reflect the confidence, or lack thereof, in the larger AI revolution. As a result, when Dan Ives predicted a huge day, he wasn't exaggerating the earnings. This sparked lively discussions among the tech and finance crowd. But as Nvidia shares rose about 2% shortly after the announcement, skepticism lingered. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your input helps create a more knowledgeable community where we can all learn and grow together in the world of investing. Stay up to date with the latest market trends, insights, and key updates by subscribing to Investing Tutorial. We're here to help you make smarter investment decisions and stay ahead of the curve.
on this name and you own this name, you're going to sell it on this news. I mean, I think the quarter was actually quite good. As mentioned, data center revenues, this is why you own this company, right? And data center revenues to grow 12% sequentially, that is really, for a company of this size, that's really amazing. We all knew about the margins. We were all kind of bracing for 71, 72% margin and guidance to be for margins flat. And the ramp from Blackwell in the second half of the year will get them higher margins. That's exactly what they're telling you. So you have better revenue, you have margins going higher, you got operating leverage on the bottom line. And by the way, it's one of the cheaper names in the kind of the data center world. If you think about 33 times and you think about 78 times for ARM and 38 times for Marvell, even a Broadcom, which I own, is at 34 times. So it's gotten a little bit cheaper and they're still delivering. I think this is still a good story for the long haul.
Well, we want to get back to Christina Parts-Nevelis with more on this report. Christina.
Yeah, well, speaking of delivering $11 billion of Blackwell in Q4, that's what they're saying in the CFO remarks from Colette Kress. So that's $11 billion of Blackwell happening and delivered in Q4. That's the fastest ramp that they've seen. So go towards Steph's point that they could continue to ramp up in the second half of this year. I'd like to point out they break it down into categories. We talked about data center because that's over 80% of revenues, but gaming was a concern. Gaming GPUs have come down in price. We're seeing that a little bit weaker than what the street anticipated at 2.5 versus the 3 billion anticipated. So there's some, and also professional visual.
Despite recent tremors, Nvidia remains well positioned at the intersection of technological innovation and economic power, supported by its tech partners' unwavering commitment to strengthening their AI infrastructure with its state-of-the-art GPU chips. However, what do you think? Finally, give your opinions. If you want to see what firms like Nvidia have been up to lately, click the next video on your screen. I hope to see you there.